Let me just read out her profile in short. That she is a director of product management in Thomson Reuters, Dallas. She is a strategic innovation director at USAA, focused on creation and adaptation of new and emerging technologies in the property claim space. Prior to this role, she was a digital product manager lead in platform infrastructure division. Prior to joining USAA, she has been an offering manager at IBM, leading the cloud network security product portfolio, where she ideated and launched many products. She spent her first decade of her career in software engineering with various companies like HP, ST Microelectronics, and Intera Systems, etc. And she loves to talk about topics at the intersection of product management, design thinking, open source, innovation, SRE, developer experience, security, and diversity. Also, she has a master's in computers and bachelor's in electronics, along with many other credentials. And the second panelist is that is from the academic institution, Dr. Sandeep Kaul Kuttal. She is an assistant professor in the University of Tulsa, where she directs the Human Factors in Software Engineering Lab. Her research is multidisciplinary and straddles several areas: human-computer interaction, software engineering, artificial intelligence, end-user programming, gender studies, and empirical evaluation. She has authored over dozens of publications to prestigious research, National Science Foundation Career and US Air Force Young Investigator Awards, 2 Best Paper Awards, one at Conference on Human Factors in Computer Systems, and another at International Conference on Global Software Engineering, an honorable mention at CHI. Dr. Kuttal is a member of the editorial board of Journal of Computer Language. She is also the vice chair and member of steering committee for IEEE Symposium on Visual Languages and Human-Centric Computing. She has acted as advisory and program committee member in many international conferences. She is a vice president for community outreach as well as professional development at the Tulsa, Northeastern Oklahoma Society for Women Engineers at Tulsa University. She is a faculty advisor for SWE, Young Professionals of Tulsa University, and National Center for Women in Information and Technology, which means that we do have lots to hear from these 2 panel members. It is my pleasure to welcome both of you to this panel, as well as I welcome our host Akshara, as well as the moderator. The moderator for this panel discussion today is Mr. Eldho Babu. I welcome Mr. Eldho also, and last but not the least, I welcome all of you who have joined this meeting. So we'll have a very interesting panel discussion today. Now I hand over this session to the moderator, Mr. Eldho. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Bindu ma'am. Good evening to all, and it's actually good morning in US from Neetu ma'am as well as Sandeep ma'am. We are as a chapter, EdSoc chapter is very delighted to have you two as a panelist for this discussion. You are the best apt persons to give the contrasting ideas on these topics. So, as ma'am, we have gone through your resume. Both Sandeep ma'am as well as Neetu ma'am, both are very impressive resumes. So, over a decade of experience in industry, as well as for Neetu ma'am and for Sandeep ma'am as a teacher. She started teaching in 2001. And I direct my first question to Neetu ma'am. So, ma'am, from your profile, it is clear, evident that you have done a great job as a product leader. So, when do you realize this is the right path for you?
We can't hear you, Eldho. Okay.
Your question got cut.
Is it clear? Okay, in video. Okay, ma'am.
Coming in and out.
Yeah, ma'am. The first question is directed to you, Neetu ma'am. So, from your profile, it is clearly evident that you have done a great job as a product leader. So when did you realize it is the right path for you?
I moved into product management after a decade of engineering. So I was for almost a decade a software engineer. And having done that, I'd become a lead software engineer um, at IBM, where I was already leading my product. And I was often in those meetings where the product manager would be there, or I would cover up for my product manager as he got busier. I was covering more aspects of product management than actually the engineering aspects, because I was leading the engineering aspects. And it was at that point I thought that I've been programming for the last 10 years. I was thinking about my career and what do I want to do next. And since I organically grew into this role, I thought that this will be something that I would enjoy, especially because as an engineer, I was always looking at optimizing the code, write the best code so that it's quality code, it's usable, it's bug free and optimized, and memory utilization, etc. I was a embedded software programmer, but I didn't realize that there's a whole other world out there where people have to think about, if you build it, will it sell? If a competitor comes, how would you compete and position yourself? How do you enable sales and marketing to sell something that you have built? So all these aspects of looking at the product end to end, from idea to launch, was something that I really enjoyed doing organically in that role. And I realized that I was ready for a change, and this was a natural extension of how I was thinking, and I wanted to have a bigger impact and end-to-end visibility. That sort of fueled me in the field of product management.
That was a wonderful answer. So I hope your leaders might have realized in IBM earlier realized that you do have a future in product management. I hope so. That way they have given you more roles as a product manager.
Everybody has a future in product manager. If you're thinking about the customers, you're thinking end to end, you can always move into product management.
Yeah, that's a very good insight, ma'am. So next question to Sandeep, ma'am. So ma'am, what are the skills that you develop in your early career to get into an assistant professor position at the University of Tulsa?
So like, again, like, I think I did mention this before, academia is a little bit different, and it is also very kind of diverse. So you can also pick and choose what kind of academic role you wanted. So there will be universities which focus on teaching. That means you are just teaching the classes. Then there are tenure track positions here in US, and which is basically you do research, you bring grant money to the universities, you have to have publications, and then you also do teaching. So teaching is part of, like, this whole role. It's not just like teaching only. So it will be like maybe 40% teaching, 40% research, and 10% service, which means like we contribute at international level, like, either conferences, journal, taking lead roles in those to become a part of kind of research community and helping the community. Because academics is more, we don't get paid that much. Academia is always not like, as much paying as industry is. But the main reason why you go to academia is you want to help the community. You want to, the other is also academic freedom, because here we can do the research and we can do things which we like or we are inspired to do. Industry, you have to make, like, that's how I see industry, you have to make profit for some industry, some CEO. But in academia, I love the academic freedom where I can choose my own ideas for which I am motivated to. So yeah, so basically those were the main reasons why I went to academia. So in order to prepare for that, in order to go to academia tenure track position, you have to have a PhD. So basically you have to have research, you have to have publications, and some teaching experience. So I did have teaching experience from before, but a lot of time there are people who may not have teaching experience, but they act as teaching assistants. So I was also teaching assistant at university, and then there are research assistant roles, which is basically you work on research. So those are important, and your publication history is important in order to get a job into academia. So it's all about research, like especially for tenure track. When it comes to teaching, then they are looking for your teaching aspects. So basically what I'm trying to say is, like, it's both, like, and it depends upon what kind of role you are doing. If you want to go to teaching, or like just like college, like, at university level or college level as an instructor, then it's a different. But if you are going into tenure track, where it is research is most focused, a lot of time people don't know that. I remember, like, initially when I used to tell people I'm assistant professor, they would ask me, are you assistant to a professor? And I was like, no. So I started telling that I'm a professor, because because, like, a lot of time they don't understand their roles. Like, when you start as assistant professor, then you are promoted to associate once you get the tenure, and then you become a full professor here in US. I know in like Europe or India, there are different roles like lecturer, senior lecturer. So that's how you go. But here it is different. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you, ma'am. That's a quite insight, and how just explained your whole journey as a professor. So yeah, as you have mentioned, the freedom as well as the taste, or the what to say, the or the all intention to stay into a research or into a topic you like, because in an academic research that may continue for maybe 5 to 10 years or more, or the application may come after 5 or 10 years. So you have to stay on top of that. So that was a very good insight from Sandeep ma'am. Next, moving on to Neetu ma'am. So after working in HP for more than 7 years, you shifted your career to product management. Yeah, I'm again concentrating on that aspect. So how did you cope with the shifting journey from an engineer to a product manager? Because you have explained earlier, you have done product management a little bit as an engineer. Then what are the certain things, or the things that get affected, or the negative sides that you face while there's a shift?
So, as I mentioned, I was lucky that before actually moving full time into product management, I got a chance to do it sort of and get to understand how the new role will look like. And then I moved into full time this role because I knew that's something I'll enjoy. But having said that, I moved into the same engineering in the same product domain. Excuse me.
Yeah, it's fine, man.
So what I was saying was, so at least when I moved from engineering to product management, the domain was the same. It was cloud network security. So I was on the same product, but now not as an engineer, but more as a product manager. So the advantage was that I knew the domain where, but at the same time, I had identified the way I went about it. Like, I wanted to become the best product manager there is. And I didn't feel very confident because I didn't have a lot of training or education in it. I had like my master's in computer science and I had 10 years of engineering background. I felt very confident in it, but I didn't feel very confident in my product management role. Apart from the domain expertise, like I was always wondering if I'm doing the best things, if I'm doing it right, if I'm, following the best practices and all that. So I actually looked into a couple of options. I identified some of the product managers at IBM that I respected, and I wanted to follow and learn from them. So I sort of, enrolled them as my informal mentors, and I would meet them, I would watch them, how they perform. I actually even asked somebody to shadow one of the great product managers at IBM. The other thing that I did was I started looking into, courses. So my questions was like, Do I go get an MBA to fill the gap? Do I need an MBA? Do I do a part-time MBA? And I have kids, and life was busy, and I evaluated all my options, full-time MBA, part-time MBA, or at that time Udemy and other Coursera, etc., were also coming up. This was in 2013. So online MOOCs were another option to fill the gap in education. And at the same time, there was another online MBA course that was coming up, which was Smartly. It has been renamed at Quantic. Based on all the options I evaluated and my time constraint and family constraints and office work, etc., I decided to go with the online MBA option through Smartly, now Quantic, because I felt that it gave me an year to complete all the courses at my pace. And then the courses were just well designed, and I got I was able to get out of that online MBA program the information or the knowledge gap that I felt that I had by switching to this new role. So using the knowledge through that online MBA and using the practical experience that I was getting on the job, I think I was able to, really close the gaps that I had in experience or knowledge and become a better product leader.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am. That's a very structured answer, definitely. And also, your role as a engineer for the past few years, did it help very much in designing the products? Because you know what an engineer wants, or how much work can he put on to design a product. So did it really help you the career as an engineer?
I do think it helped me a lot, especially because when I moved, I was into the same domain. So I knew the product end to end, behind the scenes, what is going on, in the algorithm, etc., how it is racked. So my product was HSM as a service, which is a security product that sits in the IBM cloud, and then we offer it as a service. So it's an infrastructure as a service product. So I knew it exactly, how it's racked up. I knew it exactly, how the software is working behind it, the hardware, software. I knew everything. So I felt very confident, when I was managing that product. I just needed to figure out the business aspects of it. Now, the problem came when I moved to a new company, USAA, and now I did not know the domain. I had to learn the domain, which was the DevSecOps and SDLC product domain. And that is where my engineering background sort of held me back, because I felt that I needed to understand everything end to end and completely. Like, I need to understand how it works before feeling confident as a product manager to manage that product. But I realized that you need to have domain expertise, but you can't go as deep as an engineer. And I have to work and trust my engineering leaders and just rely on their knowledge rather than spending my hours in understanding it completely, so that I can do my job as a product leader better. So the engineering background definitely helps in understanding and working with the engineers, but sometimes it can also hold you back because you get too focused on engineering aspects, while as a product leader now you're supposed to focus on something else. You have a different value proposition, so you should focus on the value that you are adding, because there are already engineers figuring it out. Just figure out how to use their knowledge to bring the product further ahead. So engineering knowledge does help, but at the same time, if you can learn what is the right amount of knowledge that you need for the whole team to perform better, I think that helps too. So you don't really need an engineering background, but it does help, especially in core tech products where there's a lot of technological aspects involved.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am. I hope a lot of people who are watching this panel discussion, who are ready to switch the career to product manager, find this one aspect very insightful. So, yeah, my next question is to both of you, Sandeep ma'am as well as Neetu ma'am. So, what's the best career decision that you guys have made, and what's the worst career decision that you have made? How do you like to answer that? How do you like to feed that? the worst as well as your best career decisions? I think we can go start with Sandeep now.
Okay. I don't know, like I'm kind of a person, the decision I make, I stick with it. So it's really hard to say that if I make the worst career decision. And so I will start with the best career decision. Um, so I'm living that. Like, you know, from childhood, I wanted to be a researcher, like when I was a kid. So I'm living my dream. So I really, it's really hard for me to say like what is the worst decision, but I never saw myself in academia. I like, you know, I mean, I knew I wanted to be a scientist, but I didn't know that a lot of academicians are the kind of scientists like, so I didn't know about that when I was a kid. So I never had academics as in back of it. It started when I was in India, like, and I started teaching, and then I started enjoying teaching, because it's like when you interact with students and the students remember you once they graduate, and like, you know, they like, it's like small things, like, you know, they remember you, you meet them somewhere outside and they still remember you and respect. So that was something like, you know, very really rewarding, which I felt during that time. And there was a publication which I did, and one of the publications which was in US actually, like, you know, I came to US to give the presentation. I was in India. So I was like, I was always like that I don't want to go back. I don't want to go in any other country other than India. Like I want to, like, I don't want brain drainage, that kind of, like, you know, I was very much like very patriotic that way. So but when I came here, so that's when I came here, it was like, oh, I will spend 3 months because I'm never going to come back to US at all. But I really liked here, like, you know, people, as well as like when I was looking at research and all, I was like, if I have to do good research, maybe it's good to come to US. So that's when I basically made the decision to do PhD. So it's like, you know, again, like there is like worst decision, best decision. It depends on you, like what you see as a worst decision. But I felt, yeah, of course it was in a worst. It has like both, isn't it? You are leaving your family, and there are some challenges which comes with coming to a new country, starting like in a new like new school system, like all those kind of challenges, which was kind of in the beginning, like, you know, kind of challenging. And PhDs, again, like, you know, usually we make fun, once you have done PhD, you don't go to hell because you have been through that. But basically, I don't know, it's really hard to think about what was the word decision, because I don't know, like I stick with like whatever decision I made, I've made. So I don't want to regret whatever I done. So yeah, I will let Neetu say something about it.
Yeah, yeah, that's a very positive outlook from some people. Definitely it is. Take life as it comes. Yeah. So I want to hear from Neetu Nal's thought as well. Yeah. How
Yeah,
do you know?
sure. So I'm probably, I guess, in that sense, opposite of Sandeep, where she always knew what to do, and she sticks to you know, whatever decision she makes. I'm the opposite. My career has had many bumps or changes, and I wanted to be a doctor. I loved biology. I never had to study biology. You know, it just came to me very naturally, effortlessly. So I thought that was my mojo. But I did not clear the PMT exam. So I said, okay, I'll get into engineering stream. I didn't want to, you know, spend one more year preparing for just exams. I wanted to move forward. So I went with that. I did my bachelor's, master's, you know, bachelor's in electronics and master's in computers. And then I joined the workforce, whatever job I got, you know, the first one in telecom. I got my internship in telecom, and then I just changed to EDA domain, a completely new domain. What I'm trying to say is that most of the times I thought I wanted to do something else, but I ended up getting somewhere else, and I just enjoyed that too. So I wasn't, even though I was intentional about the career or I knew what I wanted to do, I often, due to circumstances, landed up in some other places. But I thrived there. I enjoyed things that I did not think I will enjoy. I actually enjoyed, like engineering. Similarly, I got married, and because of visa breaks and all that, I almost had a 2-year break um, when I moved to US due to visa restrictions, etc. So I couldn't work. Then I got another opportunity which was not in EDA domain, and I was like, oh, I'm changing domains again. And I was worried about changing domains so frequently, because if you're doing so, you're not becoming an expert. Completely opposite to academic career, where you look into one domain and you spend a lot of your time in that domain. I was like, I'm changing domains every 2-3 years. So will I be able to, how will I become an expert? But I've realized over the course of time that there is value in being an expert, and there's value in being a generalist too. So even though I was thinking that I was making mistakes by changing domains because of whatever circumstances, I thought that will not be good for my career. Now I've come to realize that it's good because I have such a diverse experience. I can apply the learnings from different domains and add a unique value proposition wherever I go, you know. So to answer your question, I thought they were looking bad decisions or things like I'm not sticking to what I really want to do, but it works out wherever in the long run. Oftentimes a career ladder is not a straight ladder, it's a jungle, and you just make turns. And whatever you do, I think if you do it well, you gain your experience and learn from it and apply those learnings, it works out. So there's no really bad decision in careers. The good decision, I think, that has opened my path is when I started taking more chances. So initially, because of circumstances like visa restrictions or this or that, I was very conservative in my approaches. I would not take a job that is too far from family, or I actually didn't, I wanted to go back to academics to study. I had applied to, a couple of universities. One of the universities I got selected was a little farther from Austin. So I felt, how will it work out? Every day I don't want to go and, study that far, or I don't want to live far from home. So I did not take up that chance. There many times in my careers, I felt that I've not taken the chances that I should have, primarily because of either convenience, or if it was not my set of like, oh, this will be too bold. But at some point in time, I decided that being conservative is not serving me. I need to take bolder chances. At the most, if they don't work out, I can always go back, or you can always leave midway. It's not like a life commitment. You need to take the chance and figure it out if it's working for you or not. If not, figure out your path there. So I think that was a good decision, or a mental note that I made for myself. And since then, I have been taking more chances. I have learned a lot more new domains. I have progressed faster in my career. So that is something that I would say has worked well.
Yeah, I think what Neetu ma'am has said, I think many students in Kerala, especially engineering students, can relate to that. Those who landed in engineering inadvertently. And I think their experience or her vision about taking more chances, it may, I hope the students can relate to them and also take a note of the same. So yeah, next moving on to Sandeep ma'am. So what are the characteristics of someone who would succeed in a faculty role? What kind of person he or she need to be?
What kind of what they need to do?
Characteristics of someone.
Okay.
What are the characteristics to succeed in a faculty role?
I think I mentioned that, so it depends on what kind of role you are looking at. Basically, it's like research, service, teaching, These are the major, like teaching and research are the major roles, and then services kind of also another. So for tenure track position, those are the evaluations, like, you get evaluated based on that. Yeah, so when it comes to research, it is like the research grant money, research publications. One thing which is different, and maybe like since here we have engineering students, but computer science is a little bit different than most of other sciences, in a way that here we have conferences are more important than journals. Because in other sciences, it's always like, oh, this journal or that journal. So we have like, because computer science is such a fast field that things change so quickly that you have to be you have to change, or you have to emerge whatever research is going on. So that's why, like, I think whether you're in industry or academia, you have to be with, otherwise you will be left behind. And that's what something is also exciting at the same time about it. I will say maybe it is also for other engineering, but computer science definitely has, like, the things emerge so quickly that, and that's why we have conferences instead of journal, because journal takes longer time to publish, 1 to 2 years. And by the time you have published, industry may have already come up with the product, or like some other professor may have come up with that idea. So you have to be kind of at top of, and that's why, like, we have these conferences, because it helps us to publish as soon as possible, kind of thing. And they are like, as like, top tier, the way Nature journal is for sciences. So in our fields, like for HCI, there is the SKY conference, which is like top tier. For software engineering, there is XC, FSC, ASC, like those are the conferences which are top tier. Similar, like different areas have their own top tier, which means they have like very less acceptance rate. Out of whatever thousands of publications which come, only 20% or 18% will get published. The same is with the research grant money. Actually, only 5 to 10% grants get funded. So basically, there's a huge competition when it comes to research as well as like funding. With teaching, I will say, I personally feel if somebody is in academia, like, they should have like, this, that like with students, isn't it? Like they should think that how they are going to encourage their students. So they should have those characteristics in them. Because I have seen, like, since Neetu talked about experience, that's when I also got reminded of a few experiences when I was in my +1, +2, like my chemistry faculty. Like we have in India tuitions, isn't it? Like you pay money for preparing for competitions, like engineering competitions and stuff. So I was doing this chemistry, and I asked a question because I was always curious. So I used to love to ask questions. And one thing I've seen in India that is not encouraged. So I asked a question to this chemistry person or teacher, whatever you want to say. And she kind of scolded me. And then she said, don't come to my tuitions at all. You are trying to test my knowledge. So my mom had to go and kind of say, no, she didn't mean that. Like, but while my physics teacher was like really good, he would see my face and could tell I have questions and would ask me, what is the question? So because of that, I wanted to be a physicist, and I started hating chemistry. So I know the role of a faculty member or a teacher, whether you are at any position, it doesn't matter whether you're teaching or you're doing research, but you can build or kill somebody's like motivation and things to do. So I personally feel, I have also seen a lot of people in academia who just come to academia, but they don't really care. So like, they would say things that may hurt students. So I think like, I see life as like, whether you meet a bad person or a good person, you always learn from them. So if there's a good person, they become your role models. But if it is a bad person, you also learn what not to do. So that was kind of like, something which I personally feel in academia. One is like, of course, you have to compete because of the research, but teaching is somewhere a safe space where you don't compete, where you have to be yourself and Of course, again, teaching is also like computer science, it goes so fast, which means you have to change your courses. That is a little bit different than other, because one of my colleague, he was saying he will like to teach math courses rather than computer science, because programming assignments, programming languages, all those things, like, the junior level courses, you have to change. Or even with senior level, whether it is software engineering and all, you have to make sure whatever industry is doing, you have integrated those into your courses, and whatever research is going on, you have integrated. So there's a lot of kind of also evolving which goes on with the courses. And then service, again, you do that volunteer work, you're not paid for it. Like if you're reviewing research papers, or you are organizing a conference, or you are a board member or whatever, you are not paid for it. It is out of your time, you are doing those things. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. That's a very interesting perspective that you have provided, especially about how a teacher can build as well as kill a student. That was a very interesting perspective. And also in India, there are also many different conferences that are going on, especially IEEE is encouraging and taking up many different conferences. Especially right now, we are in Kerala section, we are hosting Indicon a few months after, in the month of October and November. So that's a very interesting perspective. And next question is to Mr. Neetu ma'am. Ms. Neetu ma'am, right now there are many courses that are focused on engineering management. There is like a product management as well as logistic management, etc. There are different courses are there. So after bachelor's, many people tend to move on to these courses. So, and number of people who are watching us live are also would like to give an opinion, have an opinion about these courses about. And also, is there anything other that ma'am you'd like to add?
From what I understand, your question is that after engineering, are these management courses effective? Is that the right question?
Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay. So that's there are multiple approaches to it. One is, I guess, everybody sort of needs to figure out where they want to end up. You might not need the management course if your goals are not to go in that line. But let's say if your goals are to go get there, then there are many aspects of management. You can manage projects, which is more like timelines and resource allocation and tracking delivery. You can manage people, which is you can manage engineering teams or product teams and all that. And you're focused on the productivity of the team. You can manage products and there you're managing the product, basically the success of the product, whatever goals the product has, penetration, market penetration, or revenue goals, or customer delight, whatever the goal is. So you're managing the product. Each of those probably require different skills. As a result, there are courses or courses or online courses or actual courses, university courses to teach you the basics or the theory or the best practices. But a lot of these things I feel come by practice. Just like engineering, you can read as much C++ as you want, but unless you program, you really don't get the theory. And it's sort of like that only when you get into the role, you get to apply the theory, and then you realize the beauty of that theory, and you can find application of it and really learn on it. So if you are studying it for the theory, then it's good. If in the course you get to apply it, then it's good. But if it's just, you study it, you don't imbibe it, and then you don't use it, then it's not really gonna stick. You're gonna have to go back to the course when you actually can apply it, because that's when you'll realize, okay, now it makes sense how it applies.
Yeah, that's a very good insight, especially in the case right now. There are many product management courses that are coming up. And as well as some people are moving to masters in these courses, some people are moving rather than doing the core subjects. And yeah, and I would like to highlight one of the points that Sandeep as well as Neetu ma'am spotted earlier, like the managing the work-life balance. So you two mentioned about the stresses that you face in between your life. So many people are forced to compromise, when you focus on one or the other. So can you please share us how do you start? How do you strike your work-life balance?
I
And
can go
first, I
for.
think we can move on to Sandeep. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Ma'am, you can go.
So I don't have a family here. So I don't have, I usually say to my students, I don't have a life. So that's why I don't let you have life. That's why you have to
Yeah.
just work. um, so, I mean, like in my case, being in academia, one beautiful thing is that the schedule is my own. Other than teaching the classes, I don't have, like, the research time or that is my own, like, whether I want to spend it over the weekend or I want to take a off on Wednesday or Friday, I can do that. Because I have to be, I have to just teach the class. Other than that, every other time is my own. So I usually am kind of 0 and 1, like very digital. So either I'm working. So yesterday I submitted 1 rebuttal and 5 publications. That's why I was like, oh, when we are having the talk, because I have a lot of things going on. Today I have to do report another, but then on this week I'm going for a tornado chasing. So for a week, so my schedule is my own. I don't need to kind of, that is like, that is another, like, that's what other thing I like about academia, that like my schedule is my own. So when I really want to work, I work. When I really want to play, I can play, take days off and go for a trip. So usually that's what I like to do. I really work hard, but then I take these days off when I don't even take my computer with me, and I will just try to enjoy that time. So so I think Neetu can say a lot because her career choice is everything dependent upon family. I didn't had, like, I was
Yeah.
lucky, or I don't know what to say, but I didn't have to make those decisions. Uh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also, yeah. And also, Sandeep, ma'am, you have recently been inducted as assistant professor in North Carolina State University.
Yeah.
Congratulations to that. So, how is the moving from Tulsa to
Yeah.
Carolina
Yeah.
State after
Yeah.
graduation?
Yeah, so I will be moving to North Carolina, which means I have to sell the house, I have to move the grants, maybe students, getting new students. So there's a lot of work which goes in, and I'm not thinking about it, I'm trying to focus. So now the focus was these deadlines. Next week, the focus is enjoying. After that, I will worry about selling the house because I have to also move there. So buying the house. So yeah, so I'm trying to take chunks so that I don't get overwhelmed. But I'm excited about the new move. Like, it will be, I'm sure it will be good for career as well as personal growth. So yeah, thank you for asking.
Yeah. Thank you and
I still have
congratulations.
2.5 months, so I'm like, taking it slow.
Yeah. And
I
me too, ma'am. Yeah.
Yeah, I can take the work-life balance question. I guess that is one of the hardest thing that I've had to manage, and for some reason I've been struggling with it right when I didn't even have a family. Even before getting married, when I was with my parents, at some point, so I was doing my master's, and just after my master's, when I jumped into the workforce, my mom was not doing very well. So I had to make sure that I find something close to home so that I can help my dad take care of her, as well as, you know, start my work, my career as well. Um, so I guess I have been, you know, have been keeping that in focus, as Sandeep mentioned, of pretty much every career decision that I have taken. Um, I I got married, and due to, my move internationally, my work access was affected. So I did not have the visa to work in US for almost 1.5 years. And at that time, it was not a choice that I made, but when I moved with my husband, wherever I moved, I try to make the best of the situation there. Then kids came along and managing family and work and house became harder. And this is the time where I would say I became very conservative because I had my firstborn and there were too many things to juggle. And I was like, okay, I'll go in my work on auto cruise, and not try to be too adventurous and this and that, and we'll just try to ride it along. So what I'm trying to say is my work-life balance has been pretty much determined by what is happening back at home in family. If we are moving, I try to find a local job there rather than being remote. If I have a young kid, then I have in the past tried to be more conservative and focus more energy at home than work. But at the same time, after the kids are 3 to 4 years, or once they are going to daycare or school, you all of a sudden get a lot of time and attention back. And then I'm able to focus more, and try to be more like learn a new skill or take up a more challenging project or something. So for me, it's always like stop and go, literally trying to balance what is going on in life and what is going and make the best of whatever it is. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Neetu, and that's a very good insight, especially in case of India, where we are pretty much close to our families. So our all decisions might depend upon what happening in our family. That's a very good point spotted by Neetu. And speaking about India, there's one question for Sandeep. So you have been started your lecture career as a lecturer, the teaching career as a lecturer in India. Then you have moved on to US. So how was the transition? Or some differences that you can highlight between the teaching modes in India as well as in US?
Yeah, so in India, I was teaching at engineering college. The difference between now and there, it is like there I was just teaching the classes. So like I said, again, academia is two kind. Either you can just teach or you do research also along with teaching. So there I was mostly teaching, and I try to teach like different courses. And one thing I always say, the best thing to learn is like teaching, because when you teach, you learn more. Because you have to be prepared for the lecture, isn't it? So I also tried at that time to take the courses which I was kind of scared of, like, which I thought were kind of harder during my undergrad. That really helped me in building. So that is one thing I felt like, I was a few days back only, I was talking with one of my colleagues that in India, because I taught different courses, that's when, so one thing I didn't mention since you asked me about batch wise is because I don't look back at my life and kind of want to regret. So that's why I don't even see it as like batch wise or whatever. But at that time, like when I was in, like I always wanted to be a physicist, but in India, either you are engineer or doctor, otherwise you don't exist. Like, we have that kind of like, either you should be engineer, you should be doctor. So, I mean, I was getting admission in engineering and I was saying, no, I want to like, I wanted to be a physicist, but now I am glad because computer science is, at least in our lifetime, it will be like, it is going to pay my bills for my bread and butter. That was like, so that's why when I was in engineering, I kind of didn't enjoy the courses. I didn't like, I wasn't the way I would be in my physics classes. Like, oh, this is something new. Like, there were few courses like electrical, especially like, when it was about related to physics, like mechanical and all, those were more interesting for me. Actually, programming courses, computers, I really hated. It didn't make sense to me until I started teaching. That's when I really started having passion for like, then it made sense. Oh, that's why we learned this thing. Like, for example, automata, like, why you learn it. And then or in computer graphics, you will learn something, either it's maths or physics, and you can put all those concepts together. Oh, that's why we are learning these. So I think that that phase allowed me to kind of grow also, learning wise, because I was teaching all these courses, that it helped me in building like, okay, what are different courses? Because when you're studying, you are just wanting to get grades. You don't really think about them.
Yeah.
So that phase kind of helped me in also kind of learning about different areas and thinking like a little bit more at a broader, like, at an abstract level, and also make connections with different, like, why we are learning what we are learning. But when to US, like now it is tenure track, like I said before. So it's more, it's research as well as teaching. I teach the courses, but at the same time I also do the research, and I mentor students. I have PhD students, master students, undergraduate who do research with me. So so it will be like a project. It's like a small, your startup company kind of. You are thinking about this idea, and then your students are kind of are part of you, because they are also kind of making that happen. So like, in academia, you can more see is that like, like currently I have 3 projects. So it's like 3 startup companies you have, where you are trying to like, make sure the idea you are thinking, this is how it can be done, that can be done. But there it was mostly teaching focus. So I learned a lot during that phase also. And now it is teaching as well as, and now I like to teach the courses which I do research in, because I like to talk about the research papers or research which I have, like, heard about at conferences, or like, so the graduate level courses here, we have like more seminar based. We read research papers, we have lectures, as well as we read research paper and discuss. So so that is something like, kind of exciting. So now I mostly focus on the courses, which is my special area where I publish. But during that time, like, I was teaching almost all kind of courses. So that is different in teaching wise. And here also in US also, you can have positions just teaching. There are community colleges, even in university, there are instructor positions where you just do the teaching, and you don't need to do the research. If you want, you can do it, but it's not kind of like, part of your evaluated based on that, like the way in industry evaluations are done every year. So for academics, like there after a few years, or depending upon what kind of, like, like whether you're tenure track, or it depends like when the evaluations are done. But yeah.
One,
Does it-
one
Yeah.
more,
okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
One more thing I've noticed is, so my dad and my husband have been in academic careers in India as well as in US. And I've noticed it that in US, they encourage a lot more interdisciplinary work, which I did not see, through their lens happening. Like they would focus on their field in India. But excuse me. Please continue.
Yeah, okay, yeah. So it's fine. And we do have a question from the participants. I will just read out the question. So yeah, there is actually a question which was in a line with what actually Neetu has been talking about. How can we improve the academic industry collaboration? What India can learn from US approach in this regard? Sandeep, I think you can answer me the same. As well as
okay.
Miriam can comment on the same.
So are you, is the question about how academic and industry collaborations can be done?
Collaboration, yes.
Okay. So it's kind of sad that, like, both kind of work separately, because again, in industry, if you're working, you have these aims, you have to have the product out, there is deadline from management, and you have to have the product out. While academic is like, kind of separate, they're doing all their own research, but there are also some research grants which kind of industry does want to work with academics, and academics also, like, people allow that, because there are a lot of grants actually. IBM has grant, or Microsoft has grants, as well as, like, Google has grants. So they have these grants. They like, either they also do sabbaticals for professors, Like they would have them come over during their sabbatical phase, which is 6 months, or during summer to do research with them. So there is that kind of collaboration, but it is not, I will say, I would have loved to have a little bit more collaborations, especially I feel students, isn't it? Like if we think from that perspective, not from research perspective, more from student perspective, if there is a way that students get that experience with industry, like, while they are still studying, because it's very different when you are studying in academic settings. It's a safe environment. That's what I usually say. I
Yes.
teach like senior projects to my students, where they work on projects in teams. So that's what I usually say. This is like a good transition because these are seniors or like final year students. So this is a good transition when they go from academia to industry, because they're working in 8 to 9 people as a team, and everybody's with different skills. If you can't work here, if you cannot have the conflicts done here, then it will be really hard to go to industry and do there. So so like there are a few things which you learn because like, you go to real environment, but academic is safe. These are your friends. It's much easier to kind of go around it. So in that way, it would be nice. What I know is at NC State, where I'm going, North Carolina State University, there they have like, they have companies within the university itself. So a lot of collaboration goes on with academics, with PhD students, as well as with undergrads also. They bring their projects, and we used to also here also had the same thing. The local people will come and give the project to students, and then they will develop the project. So one is that kind of collaboration. The other is research, what I just said. And a lot of time we meet academicians, like, the other way is also like, I gave talk at Microsoft Research as well as GitHub Next lab. And that is another way, like, because they get to know what research I'm doing. And if there is a kind of like, overlap, and there was actually, that's why I gave the talk, then you can kind of collaborate and bring these collaborations in order to work. And a lot of time these like grant companies also kind of, there are some grants which is like industry and academic collaboration. They let do that. And yeah, in past I've done with IBM TJ Watson, like we submitted, we didn't got funded, but it's like there are different ways also you can do. But ideally, I will say it is not as much as it should be. Because there's another thing which is saying is that academic research goes 15 years ahead of industry, because industry is doing the product, like, they're doing the engineering. But in academics, or when you do research, basically, you are thinking about like future, or you're thinking about the ideas which doesn't exist out there. So that's how it is kind of different. And like, when you do research and when you are doing engineering, so you are developing the products, but with research, you are thinking ahead, like what future should look like, or what research should look like.
I agree. I feel that industries focus very carefully on H1, H2, and H3 horizon ideas. H3 being like 15 years ahead, and oftentimes they spread their portfolio. I've been in innovation groups where it's like spend most of your time and focus on H1 near-term innovations rather than long-term innovations, which is where I guess the collaboration affects.
Yeah. So yeah, as I suggested, I think coming up of industry with more grants, like the companies like Spencer, Microsoft, IBM, such activities can more improve the collaboration between the industry and academia. I hope the companies may implement the same strategy here in India too in the near future. And yeah, and there are furthermore questions are there. The chat, yeah, the session is extending a little bit, just a little bit. I hope we can hear us with for 10 more minutes. And yeah, and moving on to the next question. So, ma'am, Sandeep, ma'am, as well as Neetu, ma'am, what are your future plans? So, how to plan your career path ahead, and what steps you should take to attain? So, first with Neetu, ma'am, what are your future plans ahead of?
I don't have like concrete plans, but I have desires. Like I'm interested in an area called AI ethics, so I'd like to focus and do something in there, learn this domain. I'm interested in spending more time in like tech for social impact. So either work for those companies or consult with those companies and all that, especially the product management aspects of those products, because I want to amplify those products that are at the intersection of tech and social impact. Yeah, so no concrete plans, as I mentioned, as always, but there are some focus areas that I do want to focus on. I do see there's a question in chat, which is what is the feasibility to move from academic research to industry research? And probably vice versa. So Sandeep, while you're taking that question, go ahead, knock it out, knock off on that.
So here in US, at least, there is a saying, it's very easy if you are in academia to go to industry, because a lot of time they are looking for that. So here, like, I know a lot of people have moved actually, from my friends and some colleagues I met at, now was last week I was at a conference. So a lot of people have moved from academia to industry, but it is not easy other way around. If you want to come from industry to academia, it's like, no, it's very hard to get. You may get teaching based on your experience as an instructor, but getting a tenure track position is really hard. So the answer is, so that's why a lot of time people first come to academia. They want to make sure, like, if they don't enjoy, then they go back. Like I said before, the salary is different. So I know this person, he is working at University of Colorado basically University of Colorado. And he said he started working in Google, and the salary is double whatever he was getting. So if money is something like, which really motivates you, then going to industry is better. I have another friend who just moved to Microsoft. I don't think the salary was as much of a difference, I will say. Of course, it was more like they give shares. They try to bribe you in every way. But it was more like, if money is important, because the salary in industry goes like, as you move, it goes pretty high. Then maybe industry is better choice for you. Academia is like, it stays almost, it's like a snail. The salary stays almost same, like it doesn't go like really high the way it goes in industry. But moving from academia to industry is easier rather than other way around for tenure track positions. So yeah. So since you asked about research, so that like one thing I didn't mention, so that I say to my PhD students, because if you're doing PhD, then you should be motivated to do research. Otherwise, you can just go to company and start engineering, isn't it? You can start writing code. But if you are going to commit for 5 years at least for PhD, that means either you want to go to a research position or you want to go to a tenure track position, because that's where you will do research. Of course, you will get the other job also, but in industry research, what in my experience is like there are a few companies which allow innovation, like Neetu was talking about. Microsoft is one of them, but their culture is also changing, because I have observed, I went to IBM TJ Watson, the group I was working with, or met them for a week after I came back. And after a week, their whole team was changed, the manager changed, the research topic they were focusing on changed. So their focus directions for research is towards building products. What is going to help IBM? What is going to bring more money to IBM? Well, the same thing for Microsoft also. So they do allow, like, to some extent, but now their culture is again changing. So again, it goes to CEO management, what they think is good. So a lot of time there again is like how you are going to bring money to the table, how Microsoft is going to get, like, profit out of it. And yeah, so that's why, like, they are very focused, and that's why maybe they are fine taking admissions, because they come with a research career. And yeah, but
From
these are two kind of areas where you can go if you have a research experience. Yes, Neetu, please.
I was going to say, from the industry perspective, what I've seen is that most company wants the research and the innovation. Like everybody has realized that somebody with new tech and new innovation, new research is going to come and disrupt your market, right? Or, you have years of, for example, in USA and Thomson Reuters, you have years of experience and clients, but it doesn't matter. The next Uber comes in and throws off the whole taxi industry, which is stuck around for years, into defense mode. So every company wants that research and innovation, but I think they don't have the patience for it. They don't, because research doesn't happen overnight, right? You need to spend time. And for every one successful idea, there are thousands of unsuccessful ideas in number of years and a lot of the time the research, which you have to iteratively find how to apply it, but neither does the industry have the patience in terms of time to wait for that innovative idea to actually turn into a disruptive product, nor do they have, I think, the money, the way their finances and balance sheets and stakeholders and stockholders are updated, right? They cannot say, okay, we are working on this, project that even though the market is not here today, it will be there in 10, 15 years. That's the kind of the risk that many of the companies cannot take. IBM size, Microsoft size, they can take, but even then they have to be very prudential about those kind of researches. So, which is why I think the sweet spot between academics and industry is H1, H2 horizons, which is basically next 2-3 years, whatever innovation you can make, and apply and actually start putting it into the market in next 2 years or next 5 years at the max,
Yeah, so what Sam has mentioned, just is more focused on research that they can make into a product or make it a viable product with a time span of less than 5 years. Yeah, that's actually a very good insight from you too. And so we didn't hear from Sandeep's future plans. So over to you that, Sandeep. So you have just moved on to North Carolina State University. Now you are moving to North Carolina. So what are your future plans there?
So like I will be associate professor there, and so like I said, we have only this associate, and then you become full professor. And like for me, like moving was important because I wanted to have bigger research group, more PhD students, and also collaboration. So because whether it is industry or whether it is academia, good ideas come from more people. The more intelligence, everyone is intelligent, or everyone has different ideas, how you can bring them together and make something better. So I believe in that, that innovation or creativity doesn't happen at one place. It happened with people together. So for me, it will be mostly doing more collaboration, more research with other people, whether it is industry or academics, whether they are from different areas, but just talking with them and seeing where we can have kind of collaborations and can do research. And then, making my own team, like research team and lab. So again, the main is I want to do some good research and have good publications and get a lot of money from grants.
Yeah. Satina, very best of luck for your future. So on a final question, so any further message that you need to deliver or you have for future academicians as well as industry from Neetu ma'am as well as some people?
My message would
Any
be
messages?
to Yeah, my
Please, ma'am.
message would be to keep an eye on what the latest tech is doing, what is the latest trend, and try to upskill yourself so that you can join the trend and ride the wave when it is growing, and that will sort of help you have a good careers. For example, as Sandeep mentioned, and I also, we both ended up in computer science, and I feel how we ended up there, in spite of thinking about being a doctor and a physicist, it helped us because that was the riding wave, and we were able to ride on it. So try to see what is going on in the market, in what's trending, what's the latest tech trend, and try to see if you can join it and ride that wave.
Yeah,
I do have to jump.
Neetu, ma'am. Sandeep, ma'am. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the question was related to like advice for maybe students or
Yes. Yes.
so
Advice for future academicians.
yeah, so I personally feel whether you go to industry or academia, it doesn't matter. Personally, I feel that believing in yourself and just like, and just going along and seeing positivity in that helps a lot, whether you go to academia or or industry, it doesn't matter. Because Neetu also mentioned, isn't it? Whatever, there was no bad decision. She had to make decision based on whatever the circumstance was. And if we take the life that way, because life won't be perfect at all. I started my philosophy lessons here. Won't be less perfect at all, but just being ready to learn new things, because if you have done already engineering, you have already learned, you can do later also in your life. So just believing in yourself and taking as the life comes, because there is always something hidden, which maybe it is a new thing you didn't thought about learning about it, and then you discover maybe you enjoy this more than what you thought you really liked. So just believing in yourself and going along the flow of life, because again, although I can say learning, because when I started my research at that time, mashups, I did my research like PhD basically on mashups. At that time, it was hype in industry. Everybody was talking about mashup. By the time I graduated, mashups were closed. They were not there at all in 4 or 5 years. And then there was this period of big data, security, all positions in academia, industry, everybody was just talking about that. And now it is not, now it is AI. If you see positions, whether it is in industry or it is in academia, everybody's talking about AI. So like the things will keep on changing in 4 or 5 years, and we are in computer science, it is going to evolve. We are talking about metaverse, there are so many new terms which are coming. And maybe when you did your bachelor's, it may not be same what you will do, but that's why I said, but the skills you are learning while you are studying, and the skills you are learning is you can learn later on also. Just believing in yourself, whatever life throws at you, you are going to do amazing because you are here. So yeah, so I will say just believing in, because there can be different things, whether life throws at you or you have to take the decision. In either case, if you believe in yourself and you see positivity in that and be motivated to doing that, you can do anything in your life.
Yeah. So, yes, thank you, ma'am. So it was a very nice talking to both Neetu ma'am and Sandeep ma'am. So unfortunately, we have to end this session. It's around 20 minutes past our scheduled time. So I just conclude with saying a few words. Yeah. When we are talking about industry as well as academia and all stretch of the event, there are many points that come into light. And yeah, there are many differences between industry, academia, and industry. You might not get the freedom we get in academia. We might not, especially in academia, we might not get the salary or the all life that we, all salary that we imagine. So yeah, there are many differences. There are many plus points in the both sides, but it all depends upon what I can conclude from what Sandeep ma'am as well as Neetu ma'am has said. It all depends upon your attitude, your passion, as well as taking the chances that comes in front of you. So That's a very good insight both of you have provided. And yeah, sadly, we have to end this session. So I just thank you, Sandeep ma'am, as Neetu ma'am. Now I pass on to Mr. Harigovan for the vote of thanks.
Thank you for having us.
Yes, thanks for the great discussion.
Good evening, good morning.
Hari-
Yeah, I'm audible, right?
yeah,
Yeah, great.
yes.
Good evening, good morning, and good afternoon to all. I hope you are doing good. It's my privilege to give a vote of thanks for this session. Industry and academia are two pillars which sustain modern technologies, and it's high time that we fill the gap between them. Today, we had two prominent panelists to give an overview of both career paths. On behalf of IEEE Education Society, Kerala chapter, I wholeheartedly thank Ms. Neetu Jain and Dr. Sandeep Kaul Kuttal for giving their valuable time and sharing their thoughts and experience on their careers. I would like to thank my friend and our beloved moderator, Mr. Eldho Babu, for making this session interactive. I would also like to thank all the participants present here. And I believe all of us had a wonderful, a fruitful session. Last but never the least, I must mention our deep sense of appreciation for our organizers, Women in Education EdSoc team, especially Gayatri ma'am, for conducting such a wonderful session for our members. Once again, thank you all, and I'm sure that we will maintain this momentum in the upcoming programs as well. And over to you, Akshara. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hargovan. Thank you very much. That was a very interesting discussion. I'm thanking both of you for taking the time to be with us despite your hectic schedule. On behalf of IEEE Education Society Kerala chapter, we would like to present both of you with a token of gratitude in appreciation for your efforts and presence. Please accept this. This is a virtual memento from us. Thank you, Neetu ma'am. And
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
And this is for Sandeep ma'am. Thank you. Thanks a lot, ma'am.
Thank you for having us.
And as a sovereign of this great moment, we would like to have a virtual picture with you all. So for that, I request everyone to turn on their cameras.
So Akshara, you are taking the picture, right?
No, Ashwin will take the picture. If Ashwin, if you are ready, then can. Okay. Okay, everyone smile, please. Thank you. Thanks a lot. Once again, remind everyone, thanks a lot. And the feedback form of the session will be in the chat box. And I request everyone to fill it out. Once again, thanking Neetu ma'am and Sandeep ma'am for this wonderful discussion, and thanking Eldho for moderating this. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you,
everyone.
Uh,
It's fun.
Thank you.
Nice meeting you all.
Have a
Bye.
great day.
Bye.